Okay guys, let's discuss another keyword which is one of the most important keyword in our ethics keyword series, that is objectivity, which directly finds its mentioning in UPSC syllabus. Again, this particular series is just not about your quote and your definitions. It is a 360-degree understanding of this particular keyword, which helps you to do what? It helps you to write your UPSC answer. Okay. So we'll start with the definition. Objectivity. In public administration, objectivity means, and each and every word will be important, means making judgments and decisions based on external criteria. Everything is important. That is your facts, empirical data, laws, standardized rules, rather than on personal preferences, ideology, or sympathy. So, objectivity, the word objectivity primarily relates to decision making in public administration. The objectivity you have heard in many places, right? But in public administration, categorically it means it is used with regards to decision making, and it means what? That whatever judgment you make, whatever decision you make, it is based on external criteria. That is, it is beyond you. You are just an instrument to make a decision. But the environment or the rules, laws that helps you to make that particular decision is not created by you. It's beyond you, right? So it is based on what? It is based on facts, empirical data. Empirical data means that data which is tangible in nature, right? Laws and standardized rules. And instead of what? Instead of your own personal preferences, ideology, and sympathy. This is how the architecture of bureaucracy is held together, right? Objective decision making based on rules, laws, empirical data, and censuses, right, and facts.
Committee on Standards in Public Life, our mission is to reinforce the highest standards of conduct for everybody involved in the delivery of public services, whether it's individual public office holders, institutions, or private providers of public services. Everyone is expected to adhere to the Nolan Principles. Objectivity is the principle that requires office holders to act with impartiality, without discrimination, using the best available evidence to inform their decisions, such as awarding a contract or making appointments. We're here at the UK Statistics Authority, and this is an independent body which oversees and ensures that the statistics which inform government decisions are trustworthy. Objective, evidence-based decision-making helps ensure credibility in any organisation. In public service, it helps the public have confidence that decisions are being made without bias, without discrimination, and firmly in the public interest.
When it comes to objectivity, we will understand this particular phrase, neutrality of analysis. Now, this is very important. The moment you see this particular word objectivity, you can use it in the bracket neutrality of analysis because they are similar, right? And particularly with regards to public administration, this particular neutrality of analysis is a very key term. Now, it means what? It means that the administrator asks what? It asks what do the data and law prescribe instead of what? Instead, what do I feel or what do I favor? It's basically the definition of objectivity, right? But you can use a phrase, neutrality of analysis, right? So what does the administrator do? He asks, what do the law say? What do the data say? What is the constitutional provisions which is prescribed with that particular decision making, right? And this does not do what? He does not like, what do I think? What do I feel? Whom do I support? What benefits me, right? That is not the case, right? So objective analysis leads to what? It leads to fairness in decisions. So this is again a flow chart. You can draw this flow chart in your answer. Objectivity in analysis leads to what? Fairness in decision, and this leads again to what? Trust in administration. The goal is finally with respect to partisanship, non-partisanship, with respect to impartiality, with respect to objectivity is what? Is the primary goal. The primary goal is trust in administration, right? All of these values are different in their own way, right? But they're leading to only one being, and that is ensuring or instilling trust in what? Trust in the administration, right? Now, we have understood objectivity with regards to public administration. Now, let's understand objectivity with regards to ethics. With regards to ethics, you have to understand that objectivity means, again, whatever decision you are taking is based on reasons and evidence that others can also verify. So you have taken a decision, right? You have taken a decision based on what? You have taken a decision based on some facts, right? Some documents, right? Constitutional provisions, some legal provisions, which if another person comes, will also come to that particular decision, because the decision what you have taken is not your personal decision. It is the best decision that you have taken based on the available data, available facts. So that person, whoever comes to verify, take accountability, will do what? Will come to the same decision, right? Will come to the same decision. If another rational person examines the same facts, they should be able to reach a similar conclusion, right? Again, objectivity means that. In ethics, it means that like you take a decision based on evidence, based on facts, making sure that that when another person comes, they can verify, they will come to the same conclusion, right? Okay. Now let's move on to some of the philosophical and theoretical basis of what? Of objectivity. And one of the very famous philosopher, essayist, public thinker, and we will be doing this particular personality when we'll be doing our essay, is your Francis Bacon. Now Francis Bacon, he was a Renaissance man, right? He's known as a father, he's an essayist. He is known as the father of essay, right? Now, what did he say? He says that Francis Bacon's argue what? He argues that decisions should be based on evidence rather than personal bias. And probably you will say that, "Arey, ye to bahut common hai." Ye common abhi hai, theek hai? In 1500, in 1400, it's not common, right? And he said back then, when the church, when the king was sacrosanct, right? Then he said, right? Then, obviously, you have heard about this particular personality, René Descartes. Known for what? Known for this particular maxim, cogito ergo sum. He said what? Cogito ergo sum or sum, right? It's a Latin phrase, means I think, therefore I am, right? And he says what? He emphasized that rational and systematic reasoning as a basis of sound decision making, right? He emphasized that rational and systematic reasoning. Rational and systematic reasoning is based on what? Based on, again, data. He was part of the French rationalist movement. He said that the fact that you are a rational being is not because you take very personal decision. No, it is based on what? It's based on systematic reasoning, and systematic reasoning can only happen when it is based on facts, right? Empirical data, right? Censuses, right? Now let's see another personality, Auguste Comte, right? He was part of positivism, and we will also study when we'll be doing our essay. He says, he goes to governance. He says he advocated governance based on observable facts, statistics, and social science. Again, we can mention, like, if UPSC asks questions on objectivity, if UPSC asks questions like how does the government ensures objectivity, we can mention these personalities, right? To last but not least, which is the most important personality in ethics, right? Who is the so-called propounder of deontological ethics, is your Kant, right? Immanuel Kant. Now, what he says that Kant's categorical imperative demands actions be based on universalizable principles, not personal inclination. Okay, now let's understand some of the core features of objectivity, and you can use the features, well, like we have 5 features we mentioned and examples also. So if UPSC asks a question that objectivity in public administration requires decisions to be guided by facts, laws, verifiable standards rather than personal preferences or emotions, right? If this is a statement-based questions, you can actually quote these 5 features along with the examples that we have mentioned. So the first is evidence-based. Again, this word will come. It will feature again and again when we are doing objectivity. Evidence-based, like it should be like factual. Decisions rely on data and verifiable facts, removing ghost PDS, right? Another example recently, SIR, right? SIR. Again, removal of people who are already dead or who are like duplication of names, right? They are being removed. So decision is evidence-based. Decision is taken based on what? Based on evidence. And another most important, for example, with regards to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, right? The decision is made based on what? ACC data, CC data 2011, right? The second is rule-based. So action follows established law and processes, rules, regulations. Best example will be procurement through GEM portal to prevent favoritism. Now let's come to the third core feature of objectivity, and that is your being rational and consistent. Now what do we mean by being rational and consistent? It means that if there is a similar case, right, it will be treated similarly. Whoever is taking the decision or whoever is coming and looking over that particular decision, right? So similar cases has to be treated uniformly, right? So in this regard, as we discussed previously, like whatever decision you have taken those decisions based on certain facts, certain data, right, some constitutional provision. So another person who comes and sees that decision will come to the same logical, that person has to be again rational person, right, will come to the same logical conclusion or come to the same logical decision, right? Because of what? Because the data are same, the facts are same, right? The constitutional provision is same, right? And in this particular case, the example will be computerized draw for DDA flat, right? Like in case of DDA flat, we have seen that it is not just given based on favoritism. It is given based on what? Is given based on like some computer lottery, right? Then we come to the another most important core feature of objectivity is transparent. It is transparent and verifiable, right? Verifiable because it is based on data, facts, right? Whoever decision has taken is that particular person is anonymous in nature. I don't know that particular person. The decision is known. The decision is taken based on what? Facts and data, which can obviously be verified, right? It is verifiable and because it is verifiable, it is transparent, right? Because it is verifiable, it is transparent. The best example, guys, remember this year, right? UPSC is starting to release this OMR sheet, right? You don't have to wait 1 year, right? This shows the objectivity of UPSC, right? Last but not least is emotionally neutral. Like when you're taking decisions based on data, facts, right, or your empirical evidence, right, emotion does not come to the play, right? And another important thing why it is emotionally neutral, because you will have political pressure from above, right? You will have citizenry pressure from below, right? You have to be emotionally neutral because you have to base your decision on facts and data. So another important feature of objective decision making, right? Objective decision making in public administration. So again, the reason for all these objective analysis or objective decision making is to make sure the decision is fair. The moment you make sure the decision is fair, it does what? It builds what? It builds trust in the administration. Now guys, we will understand administrative applications of objectivity. In this particular case, we'll see the application, some of the key examples, and we'll see how objectivity is applied. Now this is very important, and this is how you elevate your marks, right? This is how you elevate your marks. You be very crystal clear in your concept, and the moment you give such examples and examples along with the argument, it shows what? That you have understood. You are just not arbitrarily using those words, right? The first example, independent oversight bodies. Now, one of the independent oversight, like there are many independent oversight bodies, you have SEBI, RBI, but one of the independent oversight bodies is your election commission, right? Now, election commission of India transfers officials under the MCC to ensure free and fair election. Now, it acts objectively. Now, what is the reason? The reason is very simple. Decisions are free from local influence and political pressure, right? Decisions are free from local influence and political pressure, and they do this transfer to do what? To make sure that those particular administrators, those particular public servants might be influenced under the political or might be influenced by the government of the day, right? We have recently seen West Bengal, one of the largest transfers of officials, right? Largest transfer of officials, right? Now, they might be influenced by the government of the day, and in order to make sure the election is conducted free and fair, right? What they do is that they transfer these bureaucrats, right? They ensure that the bureaucrats does not come under the influence of the political party, right? So this is the first example. The second is data-driven governance, right? Now, everybody, we have heard about aspiration district, scheme, right? In that particular scheme, what happens? That it uses real-time indicators to allocate incentives objectively, right? Real-time indicators, right? With regards to Niti Aayog's aspirational district. Now, this resource allocation is based on what? It is based on data measurable outcomes and not discretion. It is not favoritism. It is what? It is data, right? It is outcomes which are real time, it is measured. and hence the decision that is being made is objective, right? Let's see the third point. Let's see the third application, e-governance system. Swamitva scheme. Swamitva scheme is about what? It is using drone technology or drone mapping to accurately and to corruption, like to measure the rural land records, right? So Swamitva scheme is about using drone to ensure that the land records are properly maintained, right? This like how objectivity is applied, it because technology is used and data is used, it reduces what? It reduces human bias and ensures accuracy, right? It reduces human bias, and land is one of the most important component, right? Commodity in rural India, right? Like even in your urban India also, and there are many conflicts, many litigations which are there in court because of land, and it is because of technology and data, it reduces such conflicts. It reduces such conflicts. Let's see the fourth example. Policy evaluation. Now, this very recently, what did the CAG do? The CAG had audited PMJAY data and identified irregularities and had asked the government to improve accountability. Now, just imagine a constitutional body, right? It saw the data and said, there are many irregularities, there are many ghost beneficiaries, there are many similar names getting the benefits, right? It came to the judgment based on what? Objective decision was made based on what? Objective decision was made based on the data, right? Audit-based evidence ensures impartial evaluation and corrective action. Even if it is against the government of the day, right? Even if it is against the government of the day. Another example will be your scientific policy methods, right? Scientific policy methods. Policies are tested scientifically before rollout, minimizing assumption and bias. Like what did the government do in Gujarat? RCT trials were conducted, right? Were conducted in Gujarat to test what? To test the effectiveness of emission trading before statewide expansion, right? So RCT was conducted, which is again a very scientific process to see the viability of that particular scheme, that viability of particular policy. Now, once it was tested and said that it is viable across the state, then only that policy decision was made, right? Again, objective decision is based on what? Objective decision is based on your data. Again, in this particular case, randomized controlled trials. Last but not least, merit-based recruitment. Now, this is a very important development. I think it happened in 2020, where recruitment for Group B and Group C post is based solely on written examination. Interview has been done away with, right? Interview has been done away with. Now, selection is based on merit, not connections or subjective judgment, right? Which we see many a times. We've seen that interview leads to subjective judgment. So, in 2020, if I'm not incorrect, Group B, that non-gadgeted Group B and Group C posts have done away with what? Interviews. It is only based on written. It is only based on written. Now, let's go and see some of the examples. Now, guys, let's understand something, and UPSC has asked many a times such questions. Objectivity is fine. Objectivity is good. Objectivity is rational. Objectivity is the most prudent way to come to a decision. But in case of administration, in case of public administration, objectivity should be tempered by justice, by emotional intelligence, right? By, to a degree, your compassion, right? And we'll see some of the examples where objectivity is good, but to a degree it is tempered, right? It is softened by other values. Now, let's see some of the examples. The first example comes to this stalwart of an IAS officer who has been suspended over 8 to 9 times by the Kerala government, right? And one of the finest, policies that he have taken out was named as Operation Suleiman, right? Where he used to provide free meals through local restaurants, showing empathy beyond rigid procedures, right? He did not just limit himself to being very objective about his decisions, right? So what he did was that he moved beyond being compassionate over here. His objectivity is tempered by what? His objectivity is tempered by being compassionate, and hence he has been given this name Collector Bro. Let's see another example. Okay, another way, so let's see another example. Another way your objectivity has to be tempered is by, changing if the facts and data are changed. So remember, when you are making a decision, you are making a decision based on what? You are making a decision based on facts, data, empirical evidence, right? These are the things which helps you to make decision. And once you have taken this decision, whoever comes will make the same decision. Any rational person comes will make the same decision, right? But if facts change, if data changes, if let's say your empirical evidence changes, right? if those changes, your decision has to change, right? So again, reassessing policy, right? Reassessing policy based on what? If there is a change in those data and facts. And what we have seen in bureaucracy, we are very rule based, right? We were very rule based, right? Rule based, like we have to follow rules, regulations, laws, this and that. But now the government has realized that instead of being rule based, we have to assess ourselves. We have to be role based. We have to make sure, we have to focus on the role of it, right? This is again, your objectivity is what? Your objectivity is tempered by what? Your objectivity is tempered by reassessing the data, the facts, the decisions that you have taken, right? Last but not least, again, another important example will be your rule of law with justice. Like objectively, if you say that if a Supreme Court or if a judgment has been passed, right, and in this particular case, Haldwani case, where there was illegal occupation, right, and the judgment was passed that they should be evacuated, right. Now, when they were, and objectively, you should be following the rule of law. As we have said, objective means that you have to follow the law, the law of the land, right. Now, when objectively, when you are trying to accomplish this particular decision, what happens? There are many other factors which comes to play. In this particular case, when this evacuation was taking place, it was in peak of the winters, right? You have to see the humanitarian concern as well, right? In this particular case, ethical governance must be balanced. Ethical governance must be balanced. Must balance legal procedure with humanitarian concerns, right? You just don't have to be very objective in order to follow the rules and law. You have to temper it with what? Your humanitarian concern also, right? So in this particular case, Haldwani eviction relief prioritizing rehabilitation over rigid enforcement, right? The rigid enforcement allows you to, completely evacuate those people. But because in such a temperature, in such cold winters, they were allowed to stay, and obviously later they were removed. Again, this is a very important question, and we have discussed that objectivity in administration must be balanced with compassion and justice, discussed with suitable examples. We have given examples like compassion, we have seen collector bro, right, Prashant Nair, we have seen justice. Again, we'll discuss this particular quote by D.Y. Chandrachud, former Chief Justice of India. He said, "The judiciary has time and again risen to the occasion to assert its independence and non-partisanship, a separation of power from the executive, the legislature, and vested political interests." And how did they do that? They objectively followed what? They objectively followed the constitution and constitutional morality, right? They objectively followed, because whatever judgment that they give, right? Whoever judge comes later, right? If not Chandrachud, any other judge would make the same decision because of what? Because of the objective truth that is established by what? It is established by your constitutional provisions, constitutional law, and constitutional morality. Thank you, guys.